Hi everybody, this is Ismail and with another episode of Art Can Change the World. Now today what we're going to talk about a little bit of is in my last video I really discussed the importance of the arts and how they relate to the various aspects of our life and how art is really a bigger part of our existence in terms of our self-expression, our connections to culture, our connections to language, and of course that deals a lot with also our history, our shared humanity. And I felt that I needed to do kind of a part two, in a sense, of what this discussion really is about. So I kind of titled this video, as you can see below, that art matters, and that art is everywhere and why it matters. And it matters because I think we tend to not think about how art really has a part in our shared history. And what I mean by that is that, I'll give you a good example, right? In my last video, I spoke of an art teacher who basically had issues with a parent who basically marginalized her child taking art as an important aspect of her education. And you can just imagine, as an art teacher, if you are a visual arts teacher in the world or any type of person in the field of the arts, how that can make one feel, right? But I think the problem is our discourse is not one in which we are really defining how important the arts are in our collective society, right? In our, not just in American society, but in all various societies of the world. So I've been thinking a lot about it, pondering a lot. As an artist myself, I take art very seriously. It is a challenge to do art every day, especially in the modern world, right, where a lot of things pull you back and forth. Sometimes most people have this imaginary or almost romantic manner of thinking of art as someone with, lugging an easel through the mountains and hills, so to speak, and very much like Van Gogh, going out every day and creating a piece of art and then trying to live out a basic existence from it, right? And we know that when we look at Van Gogh specifically, right, he did struggle and he had some really difficult hardships. His brother was the one that kind of financed his livelihood. But Van Gogh was unique in the sense that he understood the power of art far more, I think, than most people in his day did. And I think there are a lot of good lessons, not just the fact that he struggled, right? Because I think a lot of people are thinking of those issues. And of course, Van Gogh becomes a model for the starving artists, quote unquote, right? The fact is, Van Gogh wouldn't be a model at all if it wasn't for the fact that Van Gogh left over 10,000 pieces of artwork that are considered treasures today, right? It's ironic, right? We tend to make fun of him in the sense of, well, he was a poor guy, he struggled, whatever. Yeah, but his paintings are worth millions. I can't afford a Van Gogh as much as I would love to have one. But therefore, the society as a whole, and we learn so much just through his work, because he was a wonderful, of course, a master artist and a legend in his own right, and he deserves to be celebrated. Not for the life, not for the hardships, even though the hardships were there, but for the beauty in which he saw. So why is that important to us today, looking at someone like him? Well, because the arts are literally part of our daily life. And what I am trying to do here is really speak to those people who don't see the value of the arts and who teach this kind of marginalized attitude about the arts to their children, and just keep creating a generation of, unfortunately, ignorant people who don't even see that everything that they do in their life has a relationship to the arts. Everything from the fashion, the type of clothes they wear, because somebody had to design those clothes, someone had to come up with the patterns for those clothes, someone had to come with the core ideas that created that particular style and fashion. And that has to do with an artistic education. No buts, no ifs. Another view, you could look at it this way. I know a story, well, I don't know how true it is, but it is a story that has circulated in various circles. And the one is that Steve Jobs, when he was the founder of Apple, when he was developing, of course, his computer, the Apple computer at the time, or the Macintosh, whatever you want to call it, he had come with, unlike IBM at the time that had computers as well, IBM had a very straightforward, very sharp-edged type of frame for their monitors, right? And Jobs had, as the story goes, had taken classes in art and classes in design. And he realized that a lot of people tended to like softer edges. They don't like sharp edges on the general population. They prefer that nice soft edge on things, and most things are soft, aren't they? When we grab handles or things, even our cars now are aerodynamic, but they're softer, rounder, they're more rounder circular shapes, which are that are found in nature and now are put in very modern type of tech. So Jobs was supposedly the first person to actually put round edges around his computers, which of course translated into the iPhone, translated into the iPad, translated into various different products. And of course other makers, other tech makers saw that and got a hold of that idea as well. Now, I can't tell you the honest truth if that was true that he took classes. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. But that's not the issue. The issue is we know that the arts have an influence even on technology, right? So I think it's vital for us to really think about how we go forward with this discourse, right? Because for a lot of, I follow on YouTube a lot of musicians. And the fact is, music is something which is part of the arts, right? Falls under that umbrella. It's a strong part of our society, music, no matter what you think. Somebody's going to like a piece of music no matter where it comes from and what it is, right? Everything from classical to rock and roll, everything from metal to hip hop, and I know I just mentioned just a few types of genre in music, but the fact is there are many, many, many more, right? And new ones keep coming. People are still creating music that is different, unusual, sometimes even strange, but yet impactful, right? It affects the being of a person. That's why most people, they'll hear a song that they grew up with, after not hearing it for a long time, and then they hear it on the radio, and they'll say, oh, that's my jam, oh, I remember this, and all these memories come flooding in. So music has an impact. The arts have an impact on each of our lives. And for those who marginalize the arts, I would say think again about the importance of how the arts really allow us to find expression. Expression that leads us to a greater understanding of who we are and allow us to explore those parts of our own personality that maybe we haven't really looked into deeply enough. So when you go into a museum, if you should go to a museum or a gallery, or if you look at a small piece of art in your home, take some time to really look. Take some time to really ponder about it. Because the arts also are part of the critical thinking skill that many of us want and want for our children, but don't realize that it's available to us in the arts. The arts are not simply about pretty things that you put on a wall, okay? Or just your hit song on the radio. The arts deal with theater. They deal with media. They deal with film. They deal with photography. It is a form of storytelling. It could be your story, or it could be the story of someone else. The fact is, the arts allow us to communicate in ways that are not only expressive, but allow us to really venture into deeper issues of life. And those issues could be anything from, personal, emotional issues, like dealing with depression, dealing with love, sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? But also, let's say, the issues of politics, the issues of race, issues about environment, the environment we live in, tough issues, and maybe not so tough issues. Things that are very childlike or things that are very mature. The arts are linked to poetry. They're linked to literature. They're linked to political science. Think about the fact that in our capital today, we have, at this point, at this time that I'm doing this video, we have 44 portraits of various presidents we've had. Why? They're all done by artists. Hello. Right? We have paintings of George Washington, of Jefferson, and many, many others who lived many, many years ago. Now, granted, people always say, well, there weren't cameras back in those days. But, yeah, but those paintings are in museums. They're in places where you have to take the time to look, and it's not just about the person either. It's so much more. I think we tend to forget how truly connected we are. And the arts allow us to see how connected we are. Maybe in some ways it'll also let us see how disconnected we can be. Because we can be disconnected, right? And the arts cannot communicate that idea to us and allow us, while we were exploring what we were exploring through the arts, find ways to define some of the things that we don't have words for, feelings and emotions, and maybe deeper, even something even deeper than that. So, you know, the arts really do bring out in us, I think, our shared humanity. I think it matters that we do not marginalize the arts, but really not only celebrate them, but fund them, and fund them well, because they lead to innovation. They lead to creativity. They lead to great discourse, and needed discourse, in terms of our need to understand questions, to find answers. Maybe sometimes it's not about, I always tell my students when I teach, it's not about the answers sometimes, it's really about the question. Think about that for a moment. It's sometimes about just the question itself, that we can ask it, explore it, and maybe instead of coming up with one answer, we can end up coming up with various amounts of various answers. There's no right or wrong answer in the arts, really. And then when we think of culture, and this is for the parents out there in the world who somehow think that their child doesn't need to take art, I am speaking to you directly. Just look at your culture. Does your culture mean anything to you? Then stop marginalizing the arts, because your culture is woven with music, with language, with visual arts, with traditions. Where do you think your traditions come from? They don't just come from your ancestors. They come from ancestors that found ways to express the beauty of who makes you who you are. So stop marginalizing the arts and your art teacher that is working so hard for your child to find new ways to express themselves and to be something more than just a worker bee at a good job, paying job. You know, the arts leave room for philosophy and ideas. They open our minds up to great possibilities. It's like shooting a rocket to the moon. Hello. We didn't know what the moon really was like until somebody landed there. And we're still learning from that experience. And that happened how many years ago? The arts are the same way, man. And I hope for the art teacher out there and the artist, because really you should start out as an artist first before you become an art teacher, only because it does, you know, you should be doing art if you're an art teacher. I've always said that, and I stand by that. Keep having a passion. Keep holding on to that love that you have for whatever, for painting, for drawing, for printmaking, whatever it is that you do, photography, filmmaking, whatever it is that you do in the arts. It matters to the world, no matter what anybody tells you. It matters. And I would say you're just as important as any other scientist, philosopher, poet, thinker, doctor or lawyer in the world. And I know that the job, and I know for me when I think of it, it's hard. But it's so well worth it. So I'll leave you with this. When I started this channel, I just wanted to talk about art education. But I realize it's bigger than that. So much bigger than that. So I've learned, I've grown, and I hope to make many more videos in the future like this. And if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts you want to share, please feel free to share them in the comments below. Would love to hear from you. Love to hear what you have to say about art education and the arts, and specifically about the arts. I think that's an important discourse we should be having. So with that, thank you, and see you next time.